인체 비유로 말하면 워싱턴 DC를 정조준한 열핵 타격은 세계를 감시하는 미국의 눈과 귀를 단칼에 도려내는 것이고 포인트 로마 해군 기지를 정조준.
In reality, they could hit South Korea, Japan, and possibly American bases in the Pacific.
하와이를 정조준한 열핵 타격은
At the border, on a day when Pyongyang is boasting its rockets are primed and ready to fire, it couldn't be more peaceful. But on the far side of the blue hut, something's missing. Usually there's South Koreans on guard, sometimes Americans too. Today, it's eerily quiet. At the moment, this is a war of words, but will there be a shooting war? But for now, they're relaxed enough for tourist snaps. Next stop, a few miles north of the border. It's that man again. Kim I's cult of personality is everywhere, reforming people's thoughts.
It certainly would appear that the North Koreans are brainwashed. When you talk to North Koreans, you can have a normal conversation and think I'm really dealing with a human being, and then all of a sudden they go into this robotic-like recitation of North Korean policy, and you want to shake them and say, come on, get real.
But there are signs that the regime's icy grip on information is beginning to crack. This is the strangest thing. Here's an iPhone, and you can pick up a signal from the south, which is only a few kilometers away. If I can do this, so can a North Korean. The country now has 1 million mobile phones, officially blocked from international calls, but all this makes it harder to keep people brainwashed.
Mobile phones are very important in communicating information quickly about what is going on inside North Korea. I suspect you'd find that the chattering classes in Pyongyang know very quickly about events that happen in the northeast. This is quite a big change.
A night out in Pyongyang. Our guide has a lullaby for us, the nation's reunification song. As the regime talks up thermo-nuclear war, our other guide sets out the Sinatra doctrine. Back at the hotel, the power's off again. Now you don't see the lights, now you do. Look at this shot taken from space. Compare the night sky. The north puts out a sad glowworm. The south blazes with light. A few miles south of the border, it's as if you're on another planet. Welcome to South Korea. As you can see, it's just like North Korea. Well, it might be a bit different. In South Korea, you've got all sorts of things you don't have in North Korea. Shops, adverts, individuality, freedom of religion, freedom to go for a walk. There are 25,000 defectors from the north here. The question is, why aren't there more? I'm here to meet a doctor from the north who is now free to speak, albeit anonymously.
사람들이 그렇게
South Koreans wonder why North Koreans do not rebel. Brainwashing starts in the womb. It becomes natural to bow to the portraits of the Kims every morning.
그냥 아침밥 먹을 때도 먼저 가서 인사하고.
Back in the north, on the outskirts of Pyongyang, we pass a military convoy. in town, they're testing the public address system. Something's going on. We've seen loads more soldiers in town today. They're very difficult to film, but you can feel the tension rising. The problem is, it's impossible for us to ask. What's really happening? We don't know. Instead, there's a trip to the People's Library. I asked for one particular book. 1984, the name of the title. Or any English book. George Orwell predicted a world where the threat of constant war kept the masses subdued. No 1984, but they have got Discovering Food and Nutrition. Grimly ironic, because though you wouldn't know it in Pyongyang, mass starvation is the regime's darkest failure. In the 1990s, North Korea lost its old mentor, the Soviet Union. The economy collapsed. It suffered one of the worst famines in modern times. Maybe 1 million died, maybe more. But images like these would never be shown in North Korea. This man escaped 7 years ago. Back then, Ji Seong-ho was starving. While stealing coal from a train to sell for food, he fell under the train's wheels and lost a leg and a hand.
I think I lost my mind from dizziness, sleep deprivation and hunger. My grandmother and my neighbours died of starvation. When you went into the cities, train stations, markets and alleyways, you found lots of dead bodies. I do not know the exact number, but countless people died. Countless.
Officially, the famine was downplayed, but malnutrition continues. 2 years ago, the UN estimated that 6 million people, a quarter of the population, needed urgent food aid. We're on the road again, heading over the mountains east. Due north of here is something our guides would never ever show us: the North Korean Gulag. These shocking images appear to speak to life and death inside the regime's concentration camps. Panorama has tracked down a defector brave enough to go on camera to tell his story. Young Gwang-il was a prisoner in Camp 15. How did they bury the dead in the winter when the ground is cold?
No, we don't bury them. We leave the dead bodies in a warehouse till April. We bury them in April. When we go to bury them, they're already rotten and totally decomposed. So they're shoveled like rubbish and buried.
How many bodies in one hole in the ground?
Up to 70 to 80 people.
Has the new leader acted to close down the Gulag? Far from it. Defectors say the camps are getting bigger, not smaller. Day 7. We've been taken out of the city. In Pyongyang, they stage a military parade. The regime is shaking its fist at the world. For us, a ride on the metro. No ads, and it just so happens to be the deepest in the world. Handy if the war ever did go nuclear. This is the first moment we bump into ordinary North Koreans. Even in the tube, the regime's wall of sound never lets up. There are times when it feels like we're inside a doomsday cult. The papers are full of warmongering and martial songs. Artillery of the Sacred Mountain will have its answer. But the military-first policy has a price. On the day the regime orders its forces on standby, they take us to one of the country's biggest hospitals. Here the doctor says they can care for 1,300 patients. In the mausoleum, it was light and warm, and in the hospital, it's freezing. At least the power is on, but it's gone again. They show us a series of fancy machines, a CT scanner, UV lights, but something's missing. We haven't seen a single patient yet. There are no patients here?
What?
There are no patients?
No, 오늘 환자 없는 거.
예, 대체로 오전에 많이 내오라고 이건 빼냅니다.
Mostly in the morning they cure the disease.
그다음에는 이렇게 사회 활동을 하니까 대체로 오전에 옵니다.
Normally they treat the patients in the morning.
So why aren't we allowed to see them? We asked the doctor who defected about her experience of North Korean hospitals. If you, as a doctor, had said, we need more money for medicines for the patients, what would have happened to you?
If that happens, they would kill me, the next day or even that same day. They would kill you regardless of your ranking. Even a high-ranking official would be killed. Everyone knows that.
It's the end of our tour, and we still haven't seen any patients. Tell the doctor, we're not fools. We haven't seen any patients. Please don't treat us in this way. The doctor explains that we can't see patients without their permission, but we can't ask for that without seeing them. Catch-22. Then they take us for a treat. And who should I bump into in the stalls? What feels like the entire North Korean officer corps. Top billing at the circus, soaring above the trapeze, a rocket. The officers go wild. Do they mean it, or are they too putting on a show?
The people are indoctrinated to believe that North Korea must exercise military power. When I lived there, we used to say it would be better for a war to break out so everyone can die together and see the end.
But what if this High Wire Act, blaming foreign enemies for its own failures, goes wrong?
North Korea is on a collision course with the United States and South Korea. We may see a thermo-nuclear war, but it wouldn't be because the North Koreans wanted it. But it might come to that as a result of a disastrous miscalculation.
North Korea's military-first philosophy has its own peculiar logic. The untested leader of the soldier state must threaten war to stamp his authority at home and abroad. Unless China, his major ally, reins him in, there's a danger that he could take that logic too far.
Kim Jong-un is not yet fully in control, I think. He needs to keep showing that he's strong. He wants to be the North Korean leader who forces the United States to come to the negotiating table on North Korean terms, to admit that North Korea is a nuclear weapon state, and preferably to give North Korea large amounts of aid.
My friends in North Korea say they cannot live anymore. He keeps insisting that he wants a war when the markets are closed and there is nothing to eat.
On the day we left, North Korea declared a state of war with its neighbour. For the moment, Kim III remains armed with nuclear powers, the most dangerous man on the planet.
Next on BBC One goes straight to jail in a revealing new documentary series, The Prisoners. On BBC Two, Lucy Worsley explores how royal illness has shaped the health and history of the nation. And new on 3, the Baby Britain season continues with another first-time dad learning the ropes.